Let me ask you a very simple question. Would you still call it awakening if it made you lose everything you once loved? Let's talk about a person who actually faced this. His business was growing, his name was rising, his relationships looked perfect from the outside, and then he discovered spirituality. He started meditating, detaching, letting go. He went to meditation retreats, spiritual retreats for days at stretch. Like he made those his second home. Slowly, it killed his ambition. Then it killed his connection. Then it almost killed him. Yes, you heard that right. Killed him. The same practice that was supposed to free him destroyed everything he built and was now destroying him, both internally, both consciously, and both physically. So I'm going to share Matthew's story with you, of course, with his permission, but cannot disclose much of the stuff. So whatever feels like it, pick up and use it in your case. This is the screenshot from the questionnaire he filled just before joining the intensive one-on-one session that I have. You may pause the video and read it. So Matthew got into spirituality actually via a mutual friend and went to a spiritual retreat in a place called as Uluwatu in Bali, Indonesia. For him, it started very small. He told himself he was becoming calmer. He stopped reacting, he stopped caring, he stopped fighting. But somewhere along the way, he also stopped feeling. That was his genuine concern. He stopped checking in with his team, his partner, his goals. He started telling himself nothing matters anymore. But that's not peace, that's decay. Detachment became his drug, and the high was absolute emptiness. The breaking point was when he started losing everything he built. He watched his business crumble in front of his own naked eyes. Not because it failed, but because he stopped showing up. He thought he was, transcending success, but in reality, he was escaping responsibility. The clients left, the relationships cracked, he started avoiding calls, messages, life itself. And that's when he realized spirituality doesn't destroy people. Misunderstood spirituality does. This is where the realization crept in, which is integration over isolation. Real awakening isn't about burning the world, it's about walking through it with awareness. Detachment, my friend, is not escape. True detachment is being in the world fully present without being owned by it, without being, caged by it. That's when he turned back to philosophy, stoicism, existentialism, and he started rebuilding his life yet again. He learned to use awareness as fuel and not anesthesia. Mind you, there is a very big difference. And that's when the rebuilding began. When I started working with others going through the same spiral, high achievers who lost everything, chasing peace, I saw the pattern again and again. Spirituality didn't ruin them. Their need to escape this pain did. And once they rebuilt their structure, habits, routine, responsibility, their light came back. Not the fake glow of detachment, real grounded human energy. Now I will switch to my screen so that I may be able to take you through how we actually approach Matthew's case. Mind you, shit is gonna get a bit technical, but the outcome, I'm not gonna boast myself, but phenomenal, beyond my expectation. In exactly 3 days, he started responding to the protocols I'm about to share. Also, this program was devised according to Matthew's case, so do not exactly try copy pasting this. Again, stay open-minded, pick up whatever suits you and apply in your case by tweaking it according to you. So I'm also going to drop a free Notion template down below in the description, so if you want, you may go and check that out and tweak that according to your will and use it according to your situation. Okay, so here we are. Hopefully I'm not glowing up too much because I'm very close to the light. What happened was, if we need to summarize his happenings in a diagrammatic form, this is what happened with him. He started his spiritual journey. He got stuck because that is when issues started arising. And that is when he realized that he might need two things. So the blue arrows are the blue pill, the illusions and the traps, and the red arrow is the red pill, which is the truth and reality. So either he was stuck between two, decisions. Either he continues his delusion, where gurus say, carry on with your journey. You keep repeating the loop. It's kind of a feedback loop. You keep repeating this cycle, or you choose the path of reality, which I teach, which is raw tools of philosophy, psychology, and science, and that is when you see this red arrow going up before you start your spiritual journey. You go above and beyond everything. This is where you actually go through this self-actualization process and awareness. Many people went into spirituality because they thought they have made it in life, they have everything, now they need to have a hobby. Why not go into spirituality like Matthew did? He went to Bali, he was having fun, parties and all, and he fucked up. So he was at a high point, he wanted to achieve more high, but he started falling down. But with the tools which I gave him, he went to a better, higher position, a better position filled with more ecstasy, more blissfulness. So that is what we did together. So we divided Matthew's case into 7 phases, and I would like to take you through each of this phase. Per se, I have tried keeping this as simple as possible. So the first phase was re-anchoring him. This was our goal. So we needed to re-anchor his consciousness in the body and reality. When you are stuck in this phase, you're not able to differentiate between the two. And what symptoms were addressed in his issue was he had detachment, he has numbness, he had loss of drive. These were the initial symptoms that we saw in his case, that I particularly saw in his case. So what was the core practice that I gave him was physical grounding. Number 1 was very important, which is movement, breath, cold exposure. Cold exposure works wonders when you do it empty stomach, when you wake up in the morning, right? Movement is very important. It is the solution for everything. What we did was, he was a hater of journaling. I have been a hater of journaling myself. Also, if you hear kids in the background making noise, please don't mind. This is kids' playtime, so we'll focus on our stuff. The third thing we focused was reality exposure talks. We had calls, we had social reconnection, in which we had one-on-one, more grounded conversation with each other. The results were astonishing, Within 3 days, he was able to rebuild the mind-body feedback loop yet again. He started restoring vitality and responsiveness. He was responding to the techniques which I was giving him. And there is this mind-body feedback loop. When you are too much into spirituality, when you are too much into meditation, what you do is, what your system does, it separates your mind and your body, and it becomes very difficult to look at both of them with a single lens, and that is what we did. What concept I used in this particular phase was, I embodied cognition plus stoic realism, because stoicism is a philosophical practice which I rely too much upon, and the basic idea was, thought must serve life, you must not escape it. Thoughts are meant to serve life, but people tend to escape thoughts, and they tend to get rid of thoughts, which is not a good thing to do, without any guidance per se. Coming on to phase 2. Phase 2 was removal, and our goal in phase 2 was to remove the guilt and anxiety which he had associated with ambition, because all these spiritual gurus, what they tend to do is they tend to guilt you with you being so ambitious, with you being so competitive, and they try to strip that away, and instead they try to attach yourself with spiritual competitiveness to become as spiritual as you can. So that's a game of attachment and detachment, which is not a good thing. What symptoms were addressed in this phase were fear of success, guilt around achievement, and paralysis. Whenever he used to think about the greatest success that he greatest feat that he wants to achieve, it started paralyzing him, which once boasted him, which once made him very self-aware, which once motivated him, now started feeling like guilt. So his achievement started feeling like guilt, which was again not a good thing. What we did was, the core practice was we had a gradual re-exposure to ambition and triggers. What particular triggers are there when it comes to ambitions, that derails him. So we set targets, we set deadlines, we set financial goals, we set clear-cut pedestals, we set clear-cut milestones so that we could work on the particular. Here we had a cognitive reframing session, in which I was able to let him know that ambition should not be looked upon as some form of ego. Ambition is a form of expression. It's a humanistic expression. It's also a spiritual expression, because linking ambition to guilt would, obviously hurt the person in itself. We did heart rate and breath coherence training to, reduce sympathetic arousal, because, when he went into that paralysis state, into that shock factor, he was not able to process anything, he was just messed up. We did this heart rate exercises and breath coherence exercises, which actually helped him calm down in that situation, when you are in that paralysis state, when you are in that panic mode, your body is not able to differentiate anything or absorb anything, any form of information. What you can do is you can physically try some sort of breathing exercises like fast breaths out, or breathing in slowly and then trying to purse your lips and then breathing out. That can help you. So the outcome was, this was a pretty the first phase was pretty fast. He responded in 3 days, but the second phase took him almost 2 weeks to respond. What happened was, it enabled high performance in him without emotional burnout. Before this, he was burning out emotionally very frequently. But after we did all of these sessions, we were able to enable his high performance persona yet again. The concept which I use were Friedrich Nietzsche's will to power plus Buddhist teachings, which is action without attachment. If for the people who don't know what Friedrich Nietzsche's will to power is, and for those who don't know who Friedrich Nietzsche is, who the hell he is, he's actually a German philosopher, existential philosopher. His concept will to power is particularly around you becoming your best self. Whatever it is, you becoming your best self, you practicing the best practices so that you can become your best self. So that is what we practice with him. And the Buddhist teaching, which is action without attachment. You do not need to attach with any particular school of thought. You do not need to attach with a particular action. You need to perform those actions, but with a sense of detachment, not, with a sense of attachment. Pardon me. Now, phase 3. We went into the rebuilding phase. The goal was to rebuild his internal meaning systems after this metaphysical collapse, this nihilistic collapse. And the symptoms addressed were obviously nihilism, meaninglessness, and existential fatigue, which was draining him. This phase 3 was the most difficult phase which he was going through. So the core practice was to replace him seeking happiness with creating purpose, because purpose creates a sense of happiness in itself. The philosophical dialogue which we had during our calls was Nietzsche's concept of self-overcoming. Albert Camus is a writer himself. Camus' revolt against absurdity. This world is an absurd place. This universe is an absurd place. You may keep calling for help. You may keep crying for help, but nobody answers. Maybe nobody is answering. That is why you are in this deep, existential fatigue state. So we need to practice this ritual of overcoming oneself, which is Nietzsche's concept of self-overcoming, in which you rise above mediocrity since you attach yourself with pursuing purpose. We developed a personal meaning map. I forced him to make a kind of a vision map, which I asked him to stick on his wardrobe, whatever, or on his wall, or his workspace, wherever he finds it comfortable to stick. And we built a personal meaning map. We constructed it, and those had some values. Those values gave him direction, and those directions became his daily ritual. That's it. The results came in, again, week 3. After week 2, week 3, the results started coming in. We had to sit down for a couple of sessions to get this thing going. So from searching for truth, what were the results? From searching for truth to living in alignment with it. So instead of searching for truth, instead of trying to, climb a flight of stairs, he started living in alignment with it after doing all these exercises. And Western existentialism was the concept behind this particular phase. Phase 4 was kids enjoying the life. Sometimes I feel very jealous of kids able to see the true colors of the world. So another thing, always be a kid down below. Within your heart. So phase 4 is duality. The goal was to prevent over detachment and maintain emotional tone. So he was detaching too much with everything, and this was causing his relationships to crumble. He was on the brink of losing his relationship with his partner. He was losing his friends. He was losing obviously his business, which was one of the most important things which he built since the past 8 years. And whilst doing this, he needed to maintain emotional tone. The symptoms addressed were obviously depersonalization, emotional flatness, and excessive neutrality. He was not able to process this sense of neutrality, which is very important. His emotional quotient started fiddling around with him, and he started depersonalizing with everything around him. The core practice we followed during this, I divided this particular phase 4 into 2 phases. So phase 4 got divided into 2 other phases. The phase 1 was grounded awareness, which I asked him to do for 5 minutes every day. which is full body presence. Even if you're moving from one room to the other room, you should know when you're stuck in our miseries, we tend to forget. Let me see if this is being recorded or not, because this is very important. When you move from one room to another, what tends to happen is you tend to forget why the hell am I in this room? We are not aware, or we came into a particular room to do something and we now forget what we came in here for, and then we get confused, and then this cycle repeats. So you need to have a full body presence. Even if you are going through a door, you should be fully aware of you opening the door, and this is what full body presence is. The phase 2 was non-identified observation, which we did for 5 minutes, which is detached observation while staying in body. You need to act like you are having kind of an astral experience. You are out of your body, but not fully out of your body. You are aware, you are conscious. It is not fully metaphysical, metaphilosophical or metaphysical, but it's more grounded. The results started coming in week 6 when we were working together, and we were able to build an awareness inside him that was very alive, not anesthetized. I mean, it was not sleeping. The awareness was not sleeping. It was pretty much awake, and he was able to find his path. The concept was obviously the Buddhist middle path plus the techniques of neuroscience. So the Buddhist middle path asks you to refrain away from going to extremes, not be too ascetic or not be too full of hedonism. So there is a middle path that you need to follow. There is a balance that you need to follow, plus the neuroscience technique like grounded awareness and all that kind of stuff. This was phase 4, and week 6 we were able to get good results from him. So this was phase 5, which was conversion. This was the most important phase in all of his journey, which was we needed to convert, the goal was to convert his inner awareness into outer action now. He's inwardly aware now. Now we need to transform it, convert it into solid, posited outer action. You need to perform task and action. So the symptoms addressed here was stagnation. He was stagnant most of the days. Over reflection, overthinking, over reflection, and spiritual bypassing. He started bypassing his spiritual, rituals. He started bypassing his spiritual understanding, which was, fucking him up, being honest. The core practice, what we did was we treated each meditation sessions as one grounded act. We carried out a sense of gratitude, then we did a message session, and then we had a compassion session, which was more of a service towards self first. You need to love yourself first before trying to love the world around you, if that makes sense. We also did an awareness action tracking, which is every important task that he did on a daily basis was being logged on a Notion template, which was mutually shared between us. So I used to have a track of it, and he practiced daily writing. I'm also not a very big fan of writing, but because of Matthew, I also had to go, because we were keeping each other mutually accountable. So, I also wrote some stuff here and there. Results, again, here he started picking up his pace. Phase 5 was expected to last 2 weeks, but week 6 only he was showing results. His awareness was heightened, and now his awareness now reinforces growth instead of paralyzing it. He was aware for his growth, and that awareness was not paralyzing him, because the awareness before this phase was actually numbing him, was actually detaching him from his growth, but now he was growing. The concept was simple around this phase was karmic feedback loop, which we use, that thoughts must always end in action. That is very important. Now comes the phase 6, which is restoration. The goal was to restore discipline and biochemical stability. The symptoms addressed were chaotic sleep. Now we were shifting more towards the physiological ailments that he was having. Mind you, I am no doctor. I just guide a person through, making changes in his or her lifestyle. So lifestyle changes can actually help you out. A doctor can only diagnose symptoms and give you medicines based on those diagnoses, but I give you a long-term solution of how you can improve your life longevity, right? So he was having chaotic sleep, fatigue, and erratic or irregular focus. The core practice was we divided again this phase into 3 parts of the day: morning, midday, and night. During morning sessions, we did body activation performances plus breath alignment work. Midday was this execution window where I used to, call him to this deep work, strategic focus, where he used to focus on his business, growing his business, the strategic time of the execution window of his whole day. And the night was kind of a reflection and integration part of his day, where he did pre-sleep protocols plus micro meditation. Pre-sleep protocols included getting in chamomile tea, a hot shower, warm shower, not hot shower, warm shower session, and then having a small reading session, not over analyzing everything, because the mind keeps yourself awake. We didn't want that. We did micro meditation session. What people tend to do is they tend to go into deep meditations at night, thinking that they could go into this state of lucid dreaming and they could be aware of what's happening. But deep meditation sessions before sleeping can actually mess you up, and you don't want to do that. So we had 4 to 5 minutes of micro meditation sessions before sleeping, and there was just another protocol which we did, and the results came in at week 8. This structure became the new spirituality for him. He was more attached, he was more grounded, he was able to respond, he was able to talk to, make new relationships whilst making his previous relationships more convenient and more easy to tread around. The concept here which I used was stoic order plus modern circadian alignment. So there is this biological clock inside our bodies which goes on and off, even if there is sunlight or there is a source of light present in your room or present outside. Even if you are in a dark room, your body still, if you are locked in a dark room, your body still performs biologically in a way that you usually perform when you are out, because your body has a clock, a biological clock which is set. That is known as circadian alignment, if that makes sense. The final phase, we dropped down to the final phase, which was integration. And this is where we tried integrating philosophy with the emotional realism. There were a few symptoms, loose strings hanging around, particularly idealism. He was being too idealistic, denial of emotion, and spiritual superiority started creeping in, which is not good. Core practice which we tried following was, every trigger is a mirror. So we did a journaling exercise where every trigger, whenever you get these sort of thoughts, you need to jot them down. So we had emotional literacy sessions together. We did naming exercises and then processed. We used to name our emotions with different synonyms. So we started naming them, then we processed it, and then we integrated that to his daily rituals. And thirdly, we did a weekly philosophical reflection. We did sessions in which we had philosophical reflections. We did reflections about Friedrich Nietzsche, Marcus Aurelius, Socrates, Plato, all these people. The good points. Everything has negative side effects and everything has negative points, but we only focus on the good and positive and optimistic thing which can actually heal you. The results for phase 7, started coming by week 9. The program was for 12 weeks, but he started responding pretty well, and by week 9 he was able to see the final results. He started to see a union of awareness and authenticity, which was kind of a grounded awakening, an awakening but still grounded. When you start flying, that is where things start messing up. So the concept link in this was modern existential therapy. So there is this existential therapy, questioning your existence. I modernized it a little bit and gave him this new medicine, modern existential therapy. The final results were as evident as the table in front of you. When it came to mind, he before was very confused and fragmented, and after the whole intensive one-on-one coaching we had, he was more integrated and focused. His body was numb and ungrounded. It became energized and embodied. His spirit, you may call it as spirit, soul, will, whatever you may tend to name it as, it was trying to escape life before. But after he started engaging with life, started collaborating with people he used to avoid, started, showing up for his business and everything. So again, with that being said, his business came into the equation. It was directionless. His business was falling apart. His team, he was detached from his team. He was not able to mutually or emotionally connect or intellectually connect with the business and the team. But after the sessions, he started aligning, and again his business became productive. I have again added all these methods in a free Notion template down below, so you can go and check that out if you want to. What does Matthew the man have to say? Matthew, hopefully my brother, you are seeing this. Love you. You were very responsive to whatever we had. You were a good student of mine. So thank you for being so patient. So this is what Matthew have to say. I'll just read that out. Sure, bro. I just asked him if I can if you can give me a small review, if that's fine by him. So he's like, sure bro, anything for you, my man. I don't even know where to start. Last night I closed the books for this month, $35,000 in revenue. He was doing around 15, 16 or 17 per month, but it started, going down. It started dipping down to 10, 9, but he made it through. You remember when I told you I was gonna shut everything down? I can't believe this is the same business that was literally dying a few months ago. I feel alive again, bro. I actually enjoy working now. The clarity, the confidence, it's unreal. I wake up excited, not anxious. My team's noticing it too. Even my client said, you sound different lately. Thank you, man. Seriously, I don't know how to explain this, but PP2, which is Project Phase 2, didn't just fix my business, it fixed me. Never thought I'd say this, but spirituality doesn't scare me anymore. It finally makes sense now. You are a legend, bro. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you for being such a patient client of mine. So yeah, this was pretty much it. My friends, this was Matthew's example for you. And if you are on the verge of losing what you built, your business, your relationships, your spark, very importantly, so stop running from the world in the name of awakening. I help people like you rebuild meaning without losing awareness. This isn't therapy, it's integration. I don't work with seekers, I'm being very honest. I work with those who are ready to come back and bounce back. So if you believe you are one of them, fill out the form below. Me and my team personally go through every application, and we only take in a handful of people who are serious, self-aware, and ready to rebuild, not just talk about it. If that's you, yes, I'm talking to you. If that's you, we'll see you inside. The 3-month intensive coaching currently starts at $3,000, and we are only opening 5 spots for the upcoming month. If you are ready to rebuild, but with structure, clarity, and guidance, this is your chance before the prices go up. Again, being honest. If you're still figuring things out, you can book a short one-on-one call to begin your journey. Either way, don't wait. Just don't wait. These 5 spots will be gone very, very fast, and so will your momentum if you don't act. Book a session before the world you built slips away. With this, meet you in the next one, my friend. And remember, it's time to snap back into reality.